What would happen if the Phantom Troupe had devil fruits? Which devil fruits would they have? Would it make them stronger? And most importantly, does Franklin have a piercing on his schlong to make it longer? In this video, I'll be giving each of the Phantom Troupe members 2 devil fruit options. I'm counting on you to tell me which devil fruit suits them better, or if you'd give them a completely different devil fruit. Starting off, we have Hisoka D. Clown. This might be a lame choice, but I'm giving him the Gum Gum fruit to make him a rubber man. It's only fair.
Bungee gum contains the properties of both rubber and gum.
I wonder if the same is true for his bungee gum. Hisoka is technically an assassin style fighter, and the Gum Gum fruit is more of an up close brawling fruit. So how would he use this? Well, we know bungee gum can attach to enemies as well. He did this before he fisted Gon in the York New tournament. So if he was able to stretch his arms, he'd be able to stick more opponents with his bungee gum and control them as well. Also, once he awakens this fruit, imagine how sick Sun God Hisoka would be. Luffy uses his imagination to become a giant and play jump rope with his enemies, but if Hisoka had this, he'd definitely turn into a giant and use his opponents as a flashlight. And if his opponent is someone like Neferpito, I can't blame him. For his second fruit, I'd give him Bonnie's Time fruit so that he could make Gon even younger. Although, he wouldn't need to use this fruit on Kaluto because she's already the youngest member of the Phantom Troupe. So let's talk about her next. For her first fruit, I'd give her the Paper fruit, which is actually a non-canon fruit, but it fits too well for me to leave out. Essentially, the fruit user becomes a FedEx person and can turn themselves into stacks of paper. Besides the ability to go band for band with Light Nostrad, the paper person can also move around freely and cut enemies. This would synergize perfectly with her Nen ability of giving people paper cuts. Kaluto uses paper to make enemies pay for mistaking her as weak. This is not too different from me, as I use paper to pay for hookers and end up making mistakes in them the whole week. We also know that she's one of the physically weaker characters of the Phantom Troupe, so having the ability to dodge or escape enemies would come in handy. The second fruit I'd give her is the Love fruit. Not because she's good looking, it's just paper beats rock. But paper gets beat by scissors, and Nobunaga has half a giant scissor in his hand. So let's go over him next. I'd give Nobunaga the Ope no Mi. Nobunaga is one of the best swordsmen in the series, but he's limited by the range of his N. With the Ope no Mi, he can effectively extend his cutting range to the size of the room. He could also teleport people closer to him by using the Shambles technique. This fruit in general has a lot you can do with it, so it'd be a great pick for any member. But Nobunaga especially doesn't really have any hacks, so the fruit would make him the side-eye surgeon. As far as I know, he doesn't have any medical knowledge either, so it probably couldn't fix his prey eyes. But who needs eyes when you can just steal them from the Kurta clan? For his second fruit, I'd give him the Glare fruit so he'd have a better view of his surrounding. Cause let's be real, his eyes aren't helping him. Some characters never admit to needing help, like Uvagin when he was up against the Shadow Beast, and rightfully so since he beat them all off. So what fruit would I give him? Well, I'd double down on his strength and give him the strong fruit. We all know that Uvagin is an enhancer, or as normal people say it, uses performance enhancing drugs. Injecting his muscles with both Tren and Nen has made him one of the strongest characters in the Phantom Troupe in the series overall. The problem is, his strength is greatly reduced when he can't use Nen on himself. This is why he got chain diffed by Kurapika. But if he had the strong fruit, he'd be naturally stronger without Nen. And if he combined his fruit with his Nen, he'd almost be as strong as Prime Tonpa. I'd give him the Dig fruit so that he could dig himself out of the grave Kurapika made for him. And after being put 6 feet under, he'd be at eye level with Phaeton. For our gothic gremlin of the troupe, I'd have to give him the Flame fruit. This fruit would enhance his aggressive fighting style and he'd be able to add flames to his sword. Phaeton also uses flame-based attacks when he goes all out. One of his special moves lets him unleash the heat of the sun. Although, the Flame fruit wouldn't make him as hot as the sun, but he'd still be pretty damn hot. Definitely hotter than Pakunoda, but not as hot as Shizuku. Overall, I'd still smash. Logias are also one of the most overpowered categories of fruits because they offer amazing defensive capabilities. When we think of Phaeton, we usually think about his incredible attacks, agility, and him speaking 1 word per minute, but his defensive abilities aren't amazing, so this fruit would balance him out perfectly. For his second fruit, I'd give him the giant fruit so that he'd be a regular sized guy. But let's move on to the other side of the height spectrum and talk about Finks. who is actually the third tallest member of the Phantom Troupe, just between Nobunaga and Hisoka. Fun fact, this is also the order for the train they run during their annual Spider Clan orgy. For Finks, I'd give him the flower fruit. Finks' ability is revolved around him revolving his arm to make his punch as strong as a revolver. Does this also apply when he's cranking one out? Like each stroke he gives himself makes his nut shot even more deadly. Anyways, the drawback of this is that he's limited by his range, so if he could sprout arms closer to the enemy, he could do a one-hit KO from any distance. Another use I thought of was making one giant fist and using that to do a mega punch. I'm sure he could make other body parts as well, but we've only seen him fist fight, so I can't see him making giant feet, unless he's into that kind of stuff. The second fruit I'd give him is the brain fruit, so he'd be smart enough not to joke around with Kurapika. I mean, what was he thinking? And thinking rhymes with blinking, which I've never seen Shalnark do, so let's go over him next. For Shalnark, I'd give him the string fruit. Hold on, let me cook here. We all know that Shalnark's ability lets him control other people's body with an antenna and a remote control. Where the ability lacks is that he can only control one person at a time. Using the string fruit, he'd be able to puppet multiple enemies at once, and if he still wanted to use his antenna, he could attach it to a string bullet and snipe people from range. He could also make a clone of himself and go ahead and scout. If the enemy traps the clone, he can have the clone go into Super Saiyan mode without feeling the exhaustion that comes after that. But just like Dofi, Shalnark is not invited to the smoke sesh. He is not chill like that, and with a name like Shal Narc, I shall not be passing him the Benjamin. For his second fruit, I'd give him the snip fruit so that he could give himself a better haircut. I mean, he could grow it out a little longer, but then he'd risk looking like a Walmart version of Shizuku. But maybe Shizuku will look a little different once I give her the spider fruit. I mean, come on, they're the Spider Clan. At least one person would be getting this fruit. But I do think this fruit works well with her abilities. By creating webs that are almost as sticky as Knuckles' cum sock, Shizuku can bind enemies in her web trap. Once trapped, she can use her Blicky. Wait, that's not right. She uses Blinky to suck them up. An even better ability is using her sharp spider legs to stab or slice the enemies. And once they have a cut, she could use her vacuum like she did against Pike. It's pretty ironic that the spider member who defeated the Chimera Spider gets the spider fruit. But the most important reason she needs this fruit is because she has to shoot webs like all spiders from their anus. The second fruit I'd give her is the soul fruit, so that she could suck the soul out of me without her vacuum. But moving on to someone who doesn't need a devil fruit to become a throat goat, we have Pakunoda. And I honestly think the best fruit she could have would be the Memo fruit. Pakunoda is an interrogator. She has the ability to read people's memories by touching them, which means I'm in trouble if she asks me why I couldn't sit down after leaving the goth chick's house. But wouldn't it be memorable if she could read people's memories and then erase the memory of her reading their memories? Anemone. This ability would be amazing for the Phantom Troupe in case someone spotted them or discovered their location. I mean, I'm pretty sure they'd still off them, but to be safe, they're also gonna erase their memories. Unfortunately for Pakunoda, she's not a gaslighter like Pudding, so she probably won't awaken the devil fruit, but she may awaken her second fruit. I'd give her the revive fruit so she could come back to life, otherwise I may be facing charges for necro. Before you guys call me a weirdo, not all dead characters look weird. I mean, Franklin's kinda good looking. For Chubby and L, I'd give him the arms fruit so that he could create even more weapons from his body. In the series, we've only really seen him use finger bullet attacks, and while this attack is great for crowd control, it won't be great against faster or stronger enemies that can dodge or tank the shots. So if he had the power to shoot cannons from his milk cannons, both him and his chest would be more well-rounded. He could also get creative and make his long ears mini staffs and spin them around and become a human nunchuck. Speaking of his long ears, the answer to whether he pierced his meat to make it droopy is yes. How do I know this? Well, I watched the deleted scene of when the troupe was in the hot air balloon and needed to attack the enemies below. He whipped it out and started spraying. For his second fruit, I'd give him Kaido's dragon fruit to see how far he needed to fly before his meat wasn't dragging around. Although, I still prefer Crollo's earrings, so let's go over him next. For Crollo, I'd give him the door fruit. Crollo's main ability is that he steals. He stole the heart of all the girls watching Hunter x Hunter. But he can also steal Nen abilities, and he stores these abilities in his diary. Since he can only use the ability that corresponds to the page he's on, it's difficult to flip to the right page mid-battle. As an analogy, Think of flipping through the pages of the hub while remaining hard. Yeah, it isn't easy, right? So the door fruit would let him escape the enemies briefly, flip to the page he wants, and then come back to make his comeback. Also, since he's a sneaky spider, he could also use this fruit to infiltrate high security areas. I don't see Crollo backing out of a fight since he usually wants all the smoke, but he could also use the door fruit as a final escape plan if he has no way to win. For his second fruit, I'd give him the cold fruit because when he said
To wreak havoc.
that was the coldest line in the entire show. It would also balance out the Troupe from all the hot members of the clan. And one of the hottest is Machi. So for her, I'd give her the smooth fruit. I see a lot of Machi downplay, but not enough Machi foreplay. I truly believe she's one of the physically stronger members of the Phantom Troupe and has some pretty good speed. So what would make her even faster? Giving her the smooth fruit. Now for you smooth brains in the comments saying I'm just giving this to make her hotter, yeah, I am. What's the problem? But besides that, she could also get a buff to her defense since any blunt force attack would slide off her. She could also slide around, get up and close to the enemies, and string bondage them. It is true that this fruit doesn't really add much to her Nen string ability, but her Nen strings are a much better tool for sneak attack. When she's 1v1ing stronger opponents, she tends to rely on her combat skills to win. Just like I'm relying on you not to edge to my videos. Please, I know it's hard, and you're hard, but you need to move your hand away from your meat and towards the subscribe button. For her second fruit, I'd give her Leo's Stitch fruit so that she could advance her career of being a first responder for pedophiles. And there's no bigger supporter of this pedo than Illumi. So for this femboy, I'd give him the clear fruit. Invisibility is usually one of the worst superpowers out there. Well, for me anyways, because I already am invisible. But for Illumi, this fruit would work well for his Assassin's Creed style of fighting. With those golden doorknobs he stabs himself with, he's able to change his appearance. But adding invisibility to his skills would make him even more deadly, especially when he's fighting against those who are equally matched in speed. There is a way to counter this though. By relying on sound, the user can predict Illumi's next move and even estimate his position. But how do you get Illumi to make a sound? Easy. I'd shout out something like, "Oh my god, is that a big titty goth chick at the Hot Topic counter?" As you hear him shriek with joy, this is your chance. Run up to him and ask him if he wants to shop together. Instead of fighting to the death, you could do fit checks. For his second fruit, I'd give him the berry fruit because he's been a very bad brother to Killua, and all those balls he turns himself into could fill up Baloney's body. For the SpongeBob of the crew, I'd give him Apu's Tone fruit. Baloney has a unique ability of attacking people with sound waves, and Scratchman Apu has the unique ability of being annoying as shit, but his devil fruit lets him turn any part of his body into an instrument and attack people with it. Now, Baloney's whole body is technically an instrument, but he has to do his little dancey dance before attacking. With this devil fruit, he'd have the option for a faster attack if his opponent had speed better than a goblin, but also the devil fruit would let him do more targeted attacks. When he used Jupiter, it looked like he blew up a whole C-section of the hive, which is fine for the Chimera Ant mission, but since the spiders operate like assassins, they want to keep it low-key. The one downside of giving Baloney this fruit is that he wouldn't have as many keys to play on his teeth keyboard. For his second fruit, I'd give him the cream fruit so that he'd be all lubed up when I test out every single hole on his body. And that's everyone. Well, everyone important. I can't remember this guy's name, so he can get Chopper's human fruit or something. I hope you enjoyed this crossover video and comment on what animes you'd like to see next. If you edged to this video, I can't blame you because I was doing it too while recording this. Be sure to keep up your gooning streak by subscribing for more One Piece and anime content. Bye bye!